Now then, will the defendant, Miss Lana Sky, please take the stand? Miss Lana Sky, you're the chief prosecutor. I'm sure you're aware of what is required of you.
But Mr. Edgeworth, you already know everything. You know that's all I've done these past 2 years.
Please provide the court with your testimony, Miss Sky. And remember, you are under oath. We want to hear the truth.
Of course, the truth. Lana, no matter what happens, I'll always be your sister.
Now then, your testimony, if you will. First, tell us about your relationship with Chief Gant.
Everything hinges on your testimony. You're the only chance we have to get Gant. I worked alongside Gant for years. There's no truth to this blackmail theory. I fabricated the evidence 2 years ago all by myself. When I found Prosecutor Marshall's body, I arranged the crime scene. My only motivation was to get Dak convicted. It had nothing to do with Emma.
Are you sure about this testimony?
Your Honour, I'm confessing to a capital offence. Of course I'm sure. But Lana!
If this is true, then that means Chief Gant has nothing to do with this.
That's what I've been telling you from the beginning. Please, Mr. Wright, you've got to help her. She's sacrificing herself because of me. But what if she's telling the truth? She's not. I know my own sister. Whenever she speaks stiffly like that, she's hiding something inside. Deep down, she's really screaming in agony. Yeah, this is no time to start second-guessing myself.
The defence may now begin its cross-examination.
How many years exactly? Ever since I made senior detective. Let's see, I was 24 then, so that would have been 5 years.
Detective Gant and Detective Sky were legendary partners. I personally saw them testify in numerous cases.
She must have been good coming from the same school as Mia. Damon Gant was a respectable detective. That's why there's no truth to this blackmail theory.
But think about it, Miss Sky. You didn't murder Detective Goodman. You told me as much yesterday in jail.
You still don't get it, do you, Mr. Wright? Any testimony you cannot present in court is useless as idle gossip. I stabbed Detective Goodman with a knife. And I fabricated the evidence 2 years ago all by myself.
Did you do so to help your sister?
Joe Dark was a serial killer. My sister almost became his last victim that day. I didn't want that incident to ruin her life.
But what she did was justifiable self-defense. She wouldn't have been charged with anything.
That's not the point. She was traumatized that day all because of that creep. That's why I couldn't forgive him. Lana.
So that's why you fabricated the evidence 2 years ago?
I found Prosecutor's Marshall body and rearranged the crime scene. You say you did this all by yourself? Yes.
Would you mind telling us what you found when you arrived at the crime scene?
It seems I was the first person to discover the scene. The broken prosecutor award was stuck in the victim's body.
What?
The Prosecutor Marshall died from an unfortunate accident. That's only a situation you dreamed was possible. The reality is it wasn't my sister who took the prosecutor's life. Fantasise all you want, Mr. Wright, but I'll never change this statement.
You mean Prosecutor Marshall wound up being killed by Dark?
Something like that.
If that's so, what happened to the other murder weapon? Dark was carrying a switchblade knife.
Oh, that was lying on the floor a little distance away. It was probably knocked away in the struggle. That's not how it went down. She tried to cover up her lies with more lies. Oh, just to protect me?
So when you found a scene like this, what did you do? After all, this is what everything boils down to.
Yes. We broke off the tip of Drake's knife and planted it inside the wound and moved the body. You planted the tip of Dark's knife in the victim's wound,
And then you moved the body? But why? Why would you do that?
all of you of all people should know, Edgeworth, you've always had a good head on your shoulders. That wasn't fucking Irish, that was... My head isn't that bad, but maybe I ought to ask for the sake of others. Why did you move the body? When you showed up on the scene, where exactly was the victim's body? It was where you deduced it was, Chief Gant's desk.
But the body was found by your desk. Why'd you move it there?
The reason for that is simple.
Let's have the witness explain this in more detail. The reason Miss Sky moved the body.
The pieces of the jar that shattered during the events threatened my plan. Pieces of the jar? You mean... Yes, that wretched jar you showed us earlier. In order to show that Dark committed the crime, I felt it would be more expedient to move the body.
So, when you first found the body, the jar was already...
Of course it had been shattered to pieces. If you looked at the crime scene, it would have been clear right away what happened. Neil Marshall was dead and Dark was lying unconscious. In other words, the jar must have been broken during the struggle.
I see.
What's the matter, Emma? Apparently the jar was shattered at the time the crime was committed. But I have a feeling there's more to it than that. There must be a contradiction here somewhere. Anyway, I committed this fabrication completely alone. My only motivation was to get Dark convicted. It had nothing to do with Emma. So you rearranged the crime scene. Are you sure you didn't do this to keep Emma from looking like a murderer? How many times do I have to tell you, Mr. Wright? Emma didn't do it. Period. Are you so desperate to hide that fact? You're willing to risk a death sentence? She's lying! She did it so I wouldn't be blamed for what happened. In any case, as a prosecutor, what I've done's unpardonable. There's nothing I can do to make up for my actions. Mr. Wright, my sister's lying. It looks like she's determined to protect you to the end. She insists you fabricated the evidence by herself. There's no way she could have done it alone. I've got to get Lana to talk more. If she's lying, she's bound to slip up and make a contradiction. Miss Sky, I understand how you feel. You committed that crime 2 years ago to protect your sister.
You mean the forgery at the scene where Neil Marshall was murdered?
If that truth were to be exposed now, the past 2 years of your life will have been in vain. Even so, I am compelled to bring this to everyone's attention. a significant contradiction within your testimony. A contradiction in my testimony? You testified, and I quote, that pieces of the jar that shattered during the events threatened my plan. That's right.
You have a problem with that?
It is a simple oversight, really. You see, a message was written on this jar in the victim's blood. Yes, the prosecutor must have written it in his final moments. Exactly so. And this is where the contradiction lies. In order for the victim to be able to write his message on the jar, it must not yet have been broken before he dies. Oh. He couldn't have written Emma's name on a shattered jar.
Order!
Your Honour, it will appear more information is needed in regard to the jar and its bloody message. We may be missing something critical here.
Something critical?
Chief Prosecutor, it seems you're as in the dark as we are about the truth towards which we are headed.
What?
Just tell us exactly what you saw. We'll piece together the information to arrive at the truth.
Very well, the witness may now continue her testimony.
I immediately noticed the blood traces on the jar, but it was dark in the room and I didn't have time to check it out. To be safe, I wiped away the blood. The fragments were large, so I was sure and got them all. All I could think about was wiping them clean before they were discovered.
You mean you were the one who wiped away the message in blood?
I wasn't chief prosecutor at the time. She didn't think Dark was the real murderer. That's why she tried to erase the real evidence.
Very well, the defence may now begin its cross-examination.
So the jar was already broken. It's a miracle the thing hadn't broken earlier.
It certainly looks as feeble as the defence's case.
Thanks, Judge. Not as feeble as the judge's judgment.
You were an ace detective who never missed a detail. You really expect us to believe you didn't investigate what was written on the jar pieces?
Normally I would have. But it was dark in the room and I didn't have time to check it out. So you didn't know your sister's name was written on the jar? No. If I'd known, I would have gathered all the pieces and ground them to dust. Well, that helps my case. Lana, you'd do that for me? Seems you two might make up yet. Anyway, I just barely had enough time to move the body as it was.
So someone happened upon the scene, you lose your chance to raise the evidence. You must have been in a hurry.
I was. I knew I had to destroy the evidence before anyone came.
This is rather shocking.
See, I got away the blood. I'm afraid this action of yours reveals what really happened.
What do you mean?
If you really thought Dark killed Prosecutor Marshall, you wouldn't have wiped away the blood. What else could I have done in this situation? Lana? I only had a few moments. There wasn't enough time for me to do anything else but gather up the pieces. The fragments are large, so I'm sure I got them all. But how could you see with the power out? It should have been pitch black in that office. My detective's always prepared, Mr. Wright. Even now, I always carry a pocket light and a camera with me. Even I carry an illusion luminol wherever I go. I never miss anything. I got every last piece. All I could think about was wiping them clean before they were discovered. So you illegally rearranged the crime scene? Yes, I don't have any excuse for my actions. I'm so sorry, Lana, I didn't know. I've treated you so badly all this time. It's not too late. There's still plenty of time to make up. After we've got to the bottom of this incident.
No doubt this day will leave a permanent stain on the history of the prosecutor's office.
Minor contradictions have surfaced in her testimony. Your sister's really putting up a fight. She must really care about you. Still, she's not doing this the right way. I think I've finally figured out the contradictions in her testimony. Have you? There's one final possibility that might turn everything around. I don't know. I honestly do not know what the thing is with this. No, not a clue. Not a clue. Okay. Miss Sky, I believe this jar conceals the truth even you were unaware of. What? We find the final piece of this jar in Chief Gant's safe. In the Chief's safe? But how? Ah, I knew it. She really didn't know. There's something even more disturbing about that final piece. There was still blood on it.
But the witness just testified she gathered every last piece and wiped the blood off them.
Yes, which leaves us with only one explanation. On the night of Prosecutor Marshall was murdered, you were not the first one to show up at the scene. Chief Gant got there before you.
But couldn't the defendant have simply missed a piece?
I'm afraid that's unlikely. The pieces are too big for anyone to miss, let alone an ace detective.
That may well be, but everyone makes mistakes. I once even wasted an entire day looking for my dentures. They were in my mouth all along. Can you believe that?
Have you forgotten, Your Honour? When this witness arrived at the scene, the jar was already broken.
Oh, that...
There's no way a name could have been written on the shattered jar. Another person discovered the scene prior to the witness.
I hope you're not implying this person was Chief Gant. At the time he was looking for Dark downstairs. Besides, even if he was there first, why break the jar?
The question is, if he did arrive first, why did he hide that fact for 2 years? Well, Your Honour, can you answer us that?
No. Wait, I'm not the one on trial here.
Damon Gant arrived at the crime scene prior to the witness. He proceeded to break the jar and purposefully hide one of the broken pieces. Question: what is this action called?
Fabrication of evidence.
Why would Chief Gant do that?
In light of what happened afterwards, isn't it clear?
What happened afterwards?
Discovering the scene, Lana Skye believed her sister Emma killed the victim. Determined to help her sister, she sought Gant's aid. Lending her his aid, Gant helped her create evidence that incriminated Dark, sparing Emma, and herein lies the reason why Miss Skye became the chief's puppet.
No, I did it on my own. Please, sis, stop trying to protect the chief. I can't watch you suffer anymore for my sake. No, you didn't. It wasn't you, Emma. You didn't kill anyone. Don't believe anything Mr. Wright says. Defense attorneys make up the most foul lies to defend their clients. Foul lies? Imagine that coming from my own client.
I guess you do seem the type who likes to twist the truth.
Wait a minute. What if we're still smack dab in the middle of Gant's trap?
Is something wrong, Mr. Wright?
Lana may be right after all.
What do you mean, Wright?
So you do tell foul lies then, Mr. Wright? Miss Skye, please testify once more. But if evidence was fabricated behind your back, then Emma's accidental killing of Prosecutor Marshall might also be a lie. But I do remember knocking over Mr. Marshall. Miss Skye, if you will. I can't.
There's nothing to be afraid of anymore. This cross-examination may not change a thing. However, there's a possibility that it will, if you tell the truth.
Very well. I'll testify about what I really saw.
All right, the witness may testify once more for the final time.
When I arrived, I found Mr. Marshall's body impaled on the suit of armour's sword. Emma and Dark were lying unconscious on the floor nearby. When I saw what had happened, I thought she did it. That's why I raised all the evidence that linked her to the murder. I had Chief Gant help me remove the body from the sword and carry it. But if it already was fabricated, Emma might be innocent.
Unbelievable. The body was impaled on the armor's sword.
You were the only one who saw that. If only you had proof.
Actually, I do have proof. I gave it to Mr. Wright just this morning. What? To me? It's a picture I took of the crime scene as I encountered it. I thought it might be needed. But I don't remember receiving a picture like that. Lana must have known. See, Mr. Wright, she really does have faith in you.
Very well, Mr. Wright, please present this picture.
I don't remember receiving any pictures from Lana. Lana said she gave it to you this morning, right? Seems I remember getting something from her then. Let's check that evidence again. There might be a picture in there somewhere. Hey, there is a picture here. Oh. Oh my. This is the actual crime scene. No other detective saw the crime scene like this, because I contacted Criminal Affairs only after I'd arranged everything. Mr. Wright, the piece cut out from the vest, could that be? The cloth found inside Chief Gant's safe. cloth. It had fingerprints on it. Who's had the fingerprints? Those must be the real murderer. Oh, Emma. But those fingerprints, they're yours, Emma. Why are your lips turning purple, Mr. Wright?
Anyway, let's go on with the cross-examination. So long as you tell us the truth, we should be able to flush out the real murderer.
Very well, the defence may now begin its cross-examination.
Oh.
Come now, Mudgy. This is the poorest excuse for a trial I've ever seen. Chief Gant? What? Now you want to make me out as the bad guy too? Damn it. If so, I'd like to put in a word or two in my defence.
I'm afraid it's too late for that.
What?
You're declined to testify. That means you forfeited your right to make statements of any sort.
This must be that risk we were talking about earlier.
Just sit back, relax, and enjoy the sound of the noose tightening around your own neck.
So what? You think I'm worried? Sorry to disappoint you, but I don't need to make any statements.
What do you mean?
The evidence will do all the talking for me. Even if I can't testify, I can still present evidence.
Yes, that's true. Wait, you mean...
You still have conclusive evidence? No, I don't, but someone does.
Someone?
So, what's your excuse, Righto? Why have you been keeping quiet about it? You do have something to show us, right? Something that proves you knocked over Neil Marshall, causing his death. Conclusive evidence that leaves no room for doubt.
Is this true, Mr. Wright?
If I show that piece of evidence now, Emma's sure to be made out as the murderer.
Mr. Wright, if you have any more evidence, present it now. And if you try to conceal anything, you will be the one appearing before the Board of Inquiries.
What do I do now? I better think this through carefully. I can't afford to make the wrong decision. Should I present that piece of evidence? The one that shows who really killed Prosecutor Marshall? Yes, Your Honour, I do have further evidence. Alright, the time's finally come to show it to them. Those prints have got to be the Chief's.
Let's see this conclusive evidence. The evidence that really shows who killed Prosecutor Marshall. It's a piece of leather cloth.
Yes, most likely was cut from the victim's vest near his chest.
What's this? There's a big handprint on it.
Surely it must have been left on the cloth by whoever shoved the victim onto the sword.
What? Whose fingerprints are on this?
I'm sure Righto has checked, haven't you?
Well, whose are they?
They're Emma Sky's. What? They're mine? So I really did do it.
See, I told you it was conclusive.
But this was found in your safe. That means it's possible you forged it.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't remember any cloth in my safe. Do you really expect me to believe that?
But give it up, Mr. Wright. It's over. You shouldn't have presented that. By presenting that evidence, you've tied Emma Skye to Neil Marshall's death. No.
It appears we have our killer.
No.
No!
Everything hinged on that point. In the end, Lana alone was found guilty on all counts. Shite. Your Honour, I don't have any evidence I can present at this point in time.
What? You lie! Chief Gant? You opened my safe. I know you took what was inside. The conclusive evidence.
I don't know what you're talking about. Mr. Wright, why don't you show them? We found it together.
Oh, I see. It's because you know the truth, don't you? You know whose fingerprints are on it. That's why you won't present it.
What are you talking about, Chief Gant?
Can't you figure it out? Take a good look at this picture. See the victim's vest? Notice anything odd about the chest area? Looks like part of it's been cut off for some reason.
You mean you had this in your safe?
What? That means you, the Chief of Police, have been concealing evidence. This is going to be the biggest scandal in the history of the police department. Impressive. To be honest, I didn't think you had the gall, Writer. Well, I can't just let you pin me up as the murderer. I'll tell you what really happened. What? You mean you admit to it? I was the first person to arrive at the scene that day. It then occurred to me I could use the situation to control Anna.
So you really were manipulating her?
I knew Lana. If I could make it look like the blame lay with her sister, when she saw the scene, she would ask for my aid.
So you assisted Miss Skye?
I told her to arrange all the evidence. I had her plant the knife tip in the victim's body and move the body across the room.
And I ended up using that evidence to get Joe Dark convicted.
When I tampered with the crime scene, I hid 2 pieces of evidence. This was before Lana arrived at the scene, mind you.
2 pieces of evidence? You mean the items in your safe?
But why? For insurance, of course.
Insurance?
I was sure my plan would work, but it's always best to be prepared for the worst. I wasn't about to let anyone blame me for a murder that girl committed. You mean you were calculating that far ahead while forging the evidence? What do you take me for, a fool? I didn't make police chief by dumb luck. See the jar fragments? I hid the most legible part of Emma's name. I didn't expect Lana to go and wipe the blood off all the pieces.
But if you fabricated all the evidence, what's to say you didn't fabricate the message on this jar too?
Some people just don't know when to quit, do they? That's why I kept one more item for insurance.
You mean that piece of cloth?
Come on, Righto. Cough it up already. I know you have it.
What you waiting for, Mr. Wright? So you admit it then, Chief Gant? You were hiding the cloth you cut off the victim's vest in your safe?
Yes, I admit it. I didn't want to have to do that, being chief and all, but it's a lot better than being portrayed as a murderer. Well, Mr. Wright, what do you have to say for yourself? Just a moment ago you said you didn't have any evidence you could present. Foolish move, Wright. You should have shown it then before it was too late.
It's been a long battle, but the moment of truth has finally arrived. As long as I don't mess up here, the victory's mine. No, it's too late to show the evidence now. Besides, even if I did, it just exposed the poor girl's fingerprints.
Right, think hard over the circumstances.
Circumstances?
I'm talking about then and now. There's one major difference between the two. Weren't you waiting for that difference?
So, Edgeworth figured out my plan. Mr. Wright, this is your only chance. Your Honour, I do have evidence to present now.
Let's see the conclusive evidence. The evidence that shows who really murdered Prosecutor Marshall.
Let me verify this once more. On the day of the crime, you personally cut out this piece of the victim's vest?
Oh yes! At least you finally brought it out in the open. There's a handprint on this piece of cloth.
Your Honour, the prosecution requests you immediately be sent to the lab for analysis. This handprint on the leather, there must have been a strong impact for it to be left so clearly.
You mean...
It could not have been forged. It must be authentic, conclusive evidence.
Ha ha ha! You're as slow as the uptake as ever, were there?
What?
Think about it. Righto had all this time to present this evidence, yet he was reluctant to do so. Why would that be?
You mean you already know? You know whose fingerprints are on that?
Mr. Wright, do you really know?
Whoever the fingerprints belong to must be the real murderer. Whose fingerprints are they?
Very well, I'll tell you. It should be okay now. Everything's proceeding as predicted. The person who these prints belong to is...
Emma Skye?
What? They're mine? I'm sorry, Emma. But why? Why didn't you tell me?
You're really something, Righto. You knew this girl did it all along. You still tried to pin the murder on me. So it's true. Tragic but true. This girl really did shove Prosecutor Marshall to his death.
How could you, you monster?
Miss Skye.
You knew whose fingerprints they were all along, yet you acted like she really didn't. Miss Skye, it's not over yet. What? I said this trial isn't over yet.
Oh, but I'm afraid it is over, boy. Not only this trial, but your career too. You purposely concealed this conclusive evidence. That, my friend, is a serious offence. I'm looking forward to pressing charges after the defendant is convicted. I'll have your badge, boy! What's the matter? Cat got your tongue? Aren't you going to tell us how it feels? How it feels to be the one who single-handedly turned a poor little girl into a murderer?
Before I do that, there's just one little thing I have to clear up.
Oh, and what's that?
Who really killed Prosecutor Neil Marshall?
What?
Chief Gant, you are absolutely right. This piece of cloth proves who the real murderer is. Who killed Neil Marshall, you asked?
It was Emma Sky, wasn't it?
I'm afraid that's not possible. You see, this piece of cloth contains a critical contradiction.
What? A contradiction? What is this fool babbling about?
I'm talking about a contradiction, one that proves who the real killer is.
Mr. Wright, this piece of cloth, what could possibly contradict?
Chief Gant, your tyrannical reign ends here. Behold the piece of evidence that contradicts this cloth.
Take that! What exactly is this supposed to be?
This is the picture Miss Sky took. Take a good look at it. See where the piece of his vest was cut out?
Yes, his shirt is showing underneath.
The blood stain. Oh, very good.
It's hard to make out all the blood on his vest, though.
Exactly my point. His chest is soaked with blood, that's only natural. His lungs no doubt were punctured, blood poured out of his mouth.
But that piece of cloth... Wait, there's no blood on it. Ah!
Since Emma Sky's fingerprints are on this cloth, there's no doubt she shoved the prosecutor aside. However, Mr. Marshall was not impaled on the sword at that time.
No, this is nonsense!
Now then, Chief Gant, let me ask you something. Prosecutor Marshall was not impaled when he was shoved aside.
He most likely hit his head on the ground and was knocked out.
If so, tell me, who could it have been? Who could have arrived at the scene before Miss Lana Sky, picked up the unconscious prosecutor, and impaled him on the armor's sword?
Then to make it look like Emma was responsible for the prosecutor's death, said said person proceeded to write her name on a jar with the victim's blood, a jar they then broke on purpose to leave behind a clue, and make Lana believe her sister did it.
Remember what you admitted only moments ago? You personally cut this bloodless piece of the victim's vest? Ironic, isn't it? Through the very act of creating insurance, you proved you were the actual murderer.
No!
It's finally all over.
That was close, Righto. You almost had me. Sorry, but you have to do better than that. I refute all your allegations. What do you mean you refute his allegations? You see, that piece of cloth is illegal evidence. Order! What nonsense is this? Illegal evidence cannot be used to convict a suspect. Remember, Archie? Earlier, old Righto here concealed that piece of cloth. Well, that's true. The defense did refute the to present evidence. At that moment, the piece of cloth ceased to be legal evidence.
But that's not fair!
Oh! You actually think you could best me in court? Looks like the last laugh's on you, son. I'm afraid Mr. Gant's claim is legally correct. Well, Mr. Edgeworth?
True, illegal evidence cannot be used to convict a person, assuming, of course, the evidence is indeed illegal.
Well, Mr. Wright?
Second rule of evidence law, right? It seems at last the time for me to reveal my plans finally arrived.
Mr. Wright, you admit to it? You purposefully and illegally concealed this piece of cloth?
No, if I admit to that, all my planning will have been for nothing.
See, Mr. Wright didn't understand the implication of his conduct.
If you're going to change your position, this is your only chance, right?
I admit I refused to present it at one point.
So the evidence is illegal.
No, it isn't, Mr. Gant.
Huh?
It's not that I didn't present evidence then, it's that I couldn't.
What do you mean you couldn't?
There are certain procedures involved when presenting evidence.
No, Ajay, don't listen to his lies. He's never been a coward. You can't really believe.
There is only one issue left to be resolved in this trial. Is this evidence legal or not?
Very well, let us settle this once and for all. Earlier you refused to present evidence. If you can prove your conduct was not in violation of the law, do so now.
This is my proof, Your Honour. Evidence law.
What's this?
I've done my homework too, Chief. Indeed, Emma Scar's fingerprints are on this piece of cloth. However, at the point in time, it's merely a piece of cloth, nothing more.
What?
You see, it's written right here in this book. The second rule of evidence law.
Rule 1. No evidence shall be shown without approval of the police department.
I found this piece of evidence myself, inside your safe. It goes without saying, I did not have approval from the police department.
Rule 2. Unregistered evidence presented must be relevant to the case on trial.
And here's the crux of the matter. You see, at the time it was impossible for me to prove the relevance between the cloth and the SL9 incident.
What kind of nonsense is this? You want relevancy? Just take one look at this picture and...
Sorry, but can you recall when this picture was presented?
That was shown only a few moments ago. No.
He's right. At the beginning of today's trial, that piece of cloth is still meaningless.
The person who gave it value as evidence was you, Damon Gant.
You yourself confessed to a certain truth.
Day of the crime, you personally cut this out of the victim's vest.
Yes. No.
It was that you approved this cloth as conclusive evidence. Yes, you, the Chief of Police, personally approved this cloth.
The only person who could have cut this from the victim's vest is the one who stood before Prosecutor Marshall in his final moments. In other words, the real murderer, and there's only one person who that could be. Damon Gant. The killer was you.
I knew I should have gotten rid of him. That good-for-nothing scum. For 2 years he's been snooping around the apartment trying to get something on me. Crimes are being committed every day, yet he insists on hounding me.
Well, your crime wasn't exactly petty.
He wanted to reinvestigate the case. He recruited Angel Starr, then convinced Bruce Goodman.
Detective Goodman?
Yeah, that's right.
If the evidence is transferred, I'll lose my only chance to find the truth. Please, you've got to help me.
and turned him down, as he ought to. Still, Jake Marshall didn't know when to quit.
He stole Goodman's ID card and tried to take the evidence.
Goodman came to me that day. He wanted to file a lost item report. I went with him to the evidence room. Then all of a sudden he decided to speak out. What are you talking about, Goodman?
Can you please reopen the investigation, Chief? We can't transfer the evidence out. There are too many questions left unanswered.
He opened his evidence locker, and as he was taking the evidence out, he said,
It's not too late. I'm going to hand all this over to Marshall.
Well, to be honest, I was a bit taken aback by his words. I had a bad feeling when he came to see me, but I never thought he'd bring up SL9. That's when I saw it, that accursed knife. I couldn't just pull it out.
Doing so would have only led to more blood, making it near impossible to hide your crime.
Even so, the blood was just pouring out. I didn't know who might stumble in, so I hurried to wipe it. I was worrying so much about the floor, I didn't realize my fatal mistake.
The bloody handprint on Detective Gumshoe's locker.
I used to be known as the crime computer, but everyone has to start somewhere, I guess. I was too nervous. I had no business doing any of it.
Then you put the body in my car?
Sorry, I couldn't think of any other way to move the body. I broke your trunk, but what's the big deal? You make a lot more than us detectives ever will.
Leaving the prosecution's car aside, how could you get Miss Sky involved in all this?
Well, she had so much to lose if I did, if the truth came out.
So you took the evidence from Detective Goodman's locker?
I felt bad having to do it. I also didn't have time to pick and choose what to take.
So, you left the jar fragments in the glove.
Yeah. Looks like I was better off being an investigator of crimes than a committer. They all did their best to get in my way, and I've got to hand it to them. They did their jobs well, much to my dismay.
Fake evidence doesn't hold up very well upon close examination. You must have known that.
Tell me, Worthy, why do you stand in court?
Me?
You despise criminals. I can feel it. You and me, we're the same. One day you'll understand. Oh, believe me, you will. You're just one man. You'll see what it really takes to bring them down once you try to go it all alone.